What kind of woman would cross half the country to marry a stranger she had never seen? That question hit Silas Boon the moment he opened the letter that changed everything. The sun was barely up over the Wyoming land when a dust-covered rider stopped at his porch and handed him the envelope. Mail almost never reached a man living 40 miles from Willow Creek, and when it did, it usually brought trouble. Silas broke the wax seal and stared at the handwriting. It was Jeremiah Walls, his closest friend from the old army days, the man who had survived ambushes, winter marches, and too many fights to count right beside him. He unfolded the letter slowly. Jeremiah wrote about a woman. A bride for him. Her name was Clara May Henderson. 23. From Missouri. Educated. Quiet. A minister's daughter. A widow with a past that hurt to remember. Jeremiah's words were clear. She needed a home. She needed a husband she could trust. And Silas, scarred, lonely, living like a ghost on his own land, was the only man Jeremiah trusted with her. Silas read the letter once, then again, then a third time. A bride? For him? He looked out at his land. 400 acres of quiet, mountains rising like giants in the distance. A ranch built by his own hands and kept running by nothing but work and silence. His mother had always begged him to find a wife, to stop living like a wild animal. But she was gone now, buried under the cottonwoods by the creek, and he'd accepted that he was meant to walk alone. Still, the words dug deep. She'll be on the stage through Cheyenne on the 15th. If you're there, she's yours. If not, she'll go on to California. He had 2 weeks to decide. For 2 weeks, he barely slept. He rode fences, counted cattle, worked until his hands shook. But nothing pushed the thought away. By the morning of the 15th, he found himself in Cheyenne with a trimmed beard, a clean shirt, and nerves tighter than barbed wire. He stood on the platform, feeling like a fool, while the stage rolled in covered in white dust. People stepped off one by one. He searched each face without meaning to. A soldier. A miner. An old widow. No shy bride. His chest tightened. Then she stepped down. A small woman in a brown traveling dress. Dust on her shoes. Hair the color of autumn leaves coming loose from its pins. She moved carefully, like each step mattered. And when she lifted her face, he felt something shift under his ribs. Green eyes met his. Soft. Tired. Brave. "Miss Henderson?" he asked. "Yes, Mr. Boon." Her voice was gentle but steady. She handed him her carpet bag with only a moment's hesitation. It was heavier than he expected. Maybe she carried more burdens than belongings. "How was your journey?" he asked. "Long," she said. "But I've had worse." She didn't explain. He didn't push. They walked to the hotel in silence, the sounds of Cheyenne moving around them, horseshoes on wood, merchants calling out, men laughing too loud, women whispering as they passed. "I booked 2 rooms," he said. "We'll be married tomorrow, if that's still what you want." She paused, studying him with those green eyes, not frightened, not unsure, just thoughtful. "Yes," she said, "tomorrow we'll be married." Quote. He exhaled a breath he didn't know he was holding. That night, after leaving her at her door, he met Judge Pierce at the saloon to confirm the ceremony. Then he returned to the hotel where Clara was washing off the dust of travel and preparing for the hardest day of her life. When he knocked to escort her to dinner, she opened the door wearing a simple blue dress, her hair neatly tied, her eyes soft but guarded. She looked younger, more unsure, more real. At dinner, she asked him quiet questions. "Were you really a scout during the war?" "Yes." "Were you a good one?" "I stayed alive. That counts for something." She nodded at that. Then she asked the harder question. "Are you running from anything? The law? Old troubles?" "No, ma'am," he answered gently. "Just my own ghosts." She breathed out slowly. as if that mattered more than anything else. Later at her door, she hesitated. "Mr. Boon, tomorrow night, after we're married." "I don't." He raised a hand. "There's no rush. You'll have your own room at the ranch. We take things slow. You call the pace." Quote. Relief washed over her face so plainly it made his chest ache. "Thank you," she whispered. He walked away, but she called out softly after him, "Silas." He turned. "Thank you for meeting the stage." He nodded, not trusting his voice, and left her to rest. The next morning they were married in 5 minutes inside Judge Pierce's cramped office. No flowers, no music, no witnesses except the judge and a tired clerk. But when she slipped the simple ring onto her finger, something warm flickered inside him. By midday they reached the ranch. Clara sat beside him on the wagon seat, her new wedding band catching the light. The house came into view, rough but solid, built with sweat and stubbornness. "It's more than I expected," she said softly. Inside, she took in the dust, the sparse furniture, the cold fireplace. Then she rolled up her sleeves and started making it a home without waiting to be asked. That first evening, she told him firmly, "You are not sleeping in the barn. This is your home, and I trust your word." He didn't argue, not for a woman like her. That night, as she sat sewing in the firelight, Silas found himself watching her with a strange, aching feeling he couldn't name. She wasn't the woman he expected, but she might be the one he needed. What kind of danger follows a woman all the way from Missouri to the lonely Wyoming plains? Silas Boon found the answer 2 weeks after bringing Clara home. Life on the ranch had settled into a quiet rhythm. Clara woke early to cook breakfast. Silas tended the stock. They shared simple meals, small smiles, quiet evenings by the fire. Little by little, the distance between them shrank. She read aloud while he cleaned his guns. He taught her how to mend a saddle. She taught him how to make real biscuits instead of the hard lumps he'd lived on for years. But every so often, Silas would look up from his work to find Clara standing still, staring out toward the road as if expecting something frightening to appear. He didn't press her, not yet. Her past was a locked door. He would wait until she trusted him enough to open it. One morning, the air turned sharp with the approach of winter. Clara woke to frost on the windows and her breath turning white in the cold. She hurried to start the fire, but Silas was already there adding wood to the stove. "Cold caught us early," he said. "We need to get the house ready." "What can I do to help?" she asked. He paused, surprised by the question. Most women he'd known wouldn't lift a finger for heavy work. But Clara wasn't most women. By afternoon, they were working side by side, mixing new clay to seal gaps in the log walls, stacking wood for the long months ahead, storing vegetables from her small garden. Clara worked until her arms trembled, but she didn't stop, not once. "You're stronger than you look," Silas said quietly. "My father used to say that God helps those who help themselves," she replied. "But he helps faster if they're already working." She smiled, and it hit Silas like a warm wind. A small smile, a tired smile, but real. That night, they sat by the fire, closer than usual, both worn from the long day. She read from his old Latin book, stumbling through the words. He helped her with the pronunciation, their shoulders almost touching. He had never felt so peaceful. But peaceful moments on the frontier never lasted long. One afternoon, Silas rode into Willow Creek for supplies while Clara finished washing linens in the yard. She was hanging the last sheet when she felt it, the prickle on the back of her neck, the sense that someone was watching. She turned. A rider approached from the direction of town, a man she recognized instantly, a man she prayed she would never see again. Samuel Morrison, her late husband's cousin. The one who tried to claim her after Thomas died. The one who said she owed him more than money. The one she escaped by the skin of her teeth. He smiled when he reached her gate, a smile that made her stomach twist. "Well now," he drawled, leaning on the saddle horn, "ain't this a sight? Little Clara Henderson, playing house on a fancy Wyoming ranch." Her hands trembled. She gripped the edge of the gate to steady herself. "My name is Clara Boon," she said, "and you need to leave." "Boon?" He laughed. "I heard about that. Married a stranger, didn't you? Must have been desperate." She straightened her spine, though fear crawled up her throat. "Go," she said firmly. "Silas will be home soon." "That so?" Morrison's eyes glittered. "Good. I need a word with him. Man like him ought to know his wife was promised to someone else first." "That paper isn't real. It was never real," Clara said. "You forged it." "Legal enough for trouble," Morrison replied coolly. "And you know I'm good at trouble." Clara's voice wavered. "Leave before Silas returns." He leaned closer, voice dropping to a sickening whisper. "Oh, I want him to return. I want him to see what he stole from me." Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. "You never owned me." "Thomas owed me," Morrison hissed. "And when a man dies, his debts pass on. You were part of that debt." Her voice cracked. "I am not property. That's where you're wrong." Before he could say more, the sound of hooves thundered across the yard. Silas rode in hard, his rifle across his lap. His eyes went cold the instant he saw Morrison. He dismounted slowly. "Morrison," he said in a low, dangerous voice, "you need to turn around and ride away." By now, Clara was shaking. Fear, relief, anger, all tangled together. Morrison smirked. "You must be Mr. Boon. Heard a lot about you." "And I don't care what you heard," Silas said. "Leave." "Or what?" Morrison asked. "You'll shoot me? In front of your wife?" Silas didn't blink. "If you threaten her, yes." Morrison swung his leg over the saddle and stepped down. He was taller than Silas, thinner, meaner in the eyes. "You can't hide behind that rifle forever," he said. "I'll be back with the law. With paper. With proof she's mine." Silas stepped forward, jaw hard as stone. "She is not yours," he said. "She will never be yours." Morrison climbed back onto his horse, grinning like a wolf. "We'll see," he said. "Enjoy your quiet while it lasts." He rode away in a cloud of dust. Clara's knees buckled. Silas reached her just in time. "It's all right," he said, voice softer than she'd ever heard. "You're safe." "No," she whispered. "He'll come back. He always comes back." Silas looked toward the horizon where Morrison disappeared. "Then let him," Silas said. "He won't get near you. I swear it." Clara pressed her forehead against his chest, tears burning behind her eyes. She had escaped her past once. Now it had found her again. What kind of man would face death with bare hands just to protect the woman he loves? Clara found the answer on a cold autumn afternoon when trouble returned to their quiet Wyoming ranch. And this time, it wasn't just Samuel Morrison. It was far worse. For weeks after Morrison's warning, Silas stayed alert. He rode the fences more often. He kept his rifle loaded and close. Clara pretended to go about her days as normal, cooking, sewing, tending her small garden, but deep down she lived with a knot of fear that only tightened with time. Silas tried to hide his own worry, but Clara could see it in the lines around his eyes. What neither of them knew was that Morrison wasn't done. He had friends, dangerous ones. And one warm evening, as the sun dipped low across the plains, those friends came riding hard. Clara was at the stove stirring stew when the first crack of gunfire shattered the silence. The windows rattled. The dishes on the shelves shook. Her heart lurched. Silas burst in from the porch, eyes blazing. "Clara, root cellar, now!" "No," she said breathlessly. "Silas!" He grabbed her shoulders. "This isn't up for debate. You hide, you hear me? Hide, and don't come out. But I won't leave you out there alone." "You're not leaving me." He cupped her face. "You're keeping our child safe." Her breath froze. Their child. She had been waiting for the right moment to tell him, but fate had chosen for her. His eyes widened, stunned, then softened with something she had never seen, pure, trembling joy. "You're," he whispered. She nodded. "I'm sure." He kissed her forehead with shaking hands. "Then I'll do whatever it takes to get back to you. Go." The next moment, the window shattered under another burst of gunfire, and Clara ran for the root cellar, tears burning her eyes. Outside, Silas stood alone against 5 men, all armed, Morrison's hired killers. Rage boiled in his chest with every step he took toward them. One man laughed. "This your ranch, Boon? Shame. It'll look real nice under new ownership." Silas stepped down from the porch, unflinching. "Leave. Last warning." "Oh, we're past warnings," another man sneered. "Where's the girl? Heard she's real pretty." Silas didn't answer. He fired first. Chaos exploded. Gunfire split the evening. Horses screamed. Dust and smoke filled the air. Silas moved with the precision of a man who had survived too many wars. Fast, steady, deadly. 2 men went down before they even realized Silas had outdrawn them. But these weren't drunken troublemakers. They were professionals. Tough, cold, trained. A bullet grazed Silas's shoulder. Another clipped his arm. His rifle ran dry, and he ducked behind the water trough, reloading with shaking hands. Inside the root cellar, Clara heard the fighting and muffled screams. She covered her mouth to keep from crying out. Every gunshot felt like it tore through her heart. "I won't lose him," she thought. "I won't." She grabbed the shotgun and pushed open the cellar door. Outside, Silas fought like a cornered wolf. One of the men rushed him, knocking the rifle from his hands. They crashed to the ground, rolling in the dirt. The man's hands closed around Silas's throat, squeezing hard. Silas struggled, vision blurring, until, boom, the shotgun blast shook the earth. The man fell off Silas, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Clara stood in the yard, breathless, the shotgun trembling in her hands. "Stay away from my husband," she said. Silas tried to shout her name, but she shook her head. "You told me to hide," she said. "But I'm not hiding while you fight for us." The remaining 2 attackers turned toward her. Silas's blood ran cold. "Clara, run!" But she didn't run. She fired again. Boom! And one man dropped to the dirt. The last attacker whipped his pistol toward her, but Silas launched himself forward, ramming his shoulder into the man's ribs. They crashed to the ground. The attacker swung wildly, his fist smashing into Silas's already bleeding brow. Clara screamed as Silas's head snapped back. The man reached for his gun. Silas grabbed a fistful of dirt and shoved it into the man's eyes. As the attacker cried out, Silas slammed his fist into the man's jaw with all the strength left in his battered body. The man hit the ground and didn't move again. Silas staggered to his feet, chest heaving. It was over. The yard was scattered with fallen bodies, the air heavy with smoke and dust. Clara dropped the shotgun and ran to him, slipping her arms around him before his knees gave out. "Are you hurt?" she cried. "I'm fine," he murmured, barely staying conscious. "You, the baby?" Quote. "We're safe," she whispered, "because of you, because of us." He leaned his forehead against hers. "I thought I'd lose you," he said hoarsely. "You won't," she whispered. "We're in this together, always." By the time Sheriff Grant arrived, alerted by neighbors who heard the gunfire, Silas was sitting on the porch steps, holding Clara close, while the last light of day faded around them. Grant surveyed the scene and whistled low. "Looks like trouble came knocking." Silas nodded weakly. "And trouble left carried." Grant looked at Clara's trembling form, at Silas's bloody face, at the dead men in the yard. "This wasn't just trouble," Grant said quietly. "This was the last gasp of a dying threat. Word will spread. Nobody's going to test you two again." Clara rested her head on Silas's shoulder as Sheriff Grant's men took the bodies away. Silas wrapped an arm around her, his voice steady through the pain. "They'll never take you," he whispered. "Not while I breathe." She kissed his cheek, her voice soft but certain. "They sent the cowboy a shy bride," she said, "but they didn't know she'd fight beside him." Silas smiled faintly, eyes closing as he leaned into her warmth. "And they didn't know her secret," he whispered, "that she'd give me the one thing I never thought I'd have." She took his hand and placed it gently on her stomach. "A family," she said. "Our family." The stars came out slowly, one by one, filling the Wyoming sky. And in the quiet that followed, Silas and Clara sat together on their porch, bruised, bleeding, exhausted, but more unbreakable than ever. Their future wouldn't be easy, but it would be theirs, together, always.